I am indeed honored and privileged to have with me one of the greatest bass baritones, not only of our generation, but for all times. And that is Sir Bryn Terfel. We're going to be reminiscing about the roles that he has sung at the Royal Opera House, Covent Garden. And they are varied, they are numerous, and they span an incredible range. And this is what makes Bryn absolutely unique.
Thank you, Sir Tony. May I, straight off the bat, commend you on the way you pronounced my middle name. Perfect. Spoken like a true North Walian. Terfel.
Well, Bryn, let's start by talking about that iconic role, the Baron Scarpia in Puccini's Tosca. You sang it first in England with us in 2011. And of course, evil incarnate, but incredible finesse and intelligence.
Yes, of course, suave, lecherous, a connoisseur of wine and women. But you do tend to look at those past performances and learn from them. Especially Tito Gobbi in the title role, that people always tend to talk about. But, you know, study that second act that was marvelously performed from the Royal Opera House and pick up all those little nuances he has by the desk, for instance, with the feather that he writes on, the way he looks. You know, he always said tutto fa brodo about the role of Scarpia. Everything makes that soup, all the ingredients, the historical element, the clothes that he wear, the way he walked, and of course, there's anger, there's the Te Deum, which ends that first act. You know, gloatingly anticipating the conquest of Floria Tosca, and then you have those brilliant elements of Sant'Andrea, Palazzo Farnese, Castello Sant'Angelo, and you know those magnificent 11 different bells, Tony, that has 5 different percussionists playing them with 2 different offstage conductors. You know, this was a really expensive.
You've done your homework, Bryn.
Oh, what? No, this is things that you know, that you like to have anecdotally in your head, that this was the most expensive opera to put on. Those bells still are as costly as when Puccini went to these different places to hear what he was listening to, and the bells are exactly that like the bells that he heard on location.
Bryn, I couldn't do this interview with you without mentioning, of course, Wagner's Ring. The role of Wotan, you probably had been preparing your whole life for. You've got the ideal voice for it, the stage presence, the stature, and I think the emotional intelligence Can you talk to us a little bit about your preparation for the role of Wotan? It must have been many years in the making.
Yes, operatically, it's an Everest to climb, but this comes hand in hand, I think, with the drama that can be present in opera, even large-scale pieces that last hours upon end. And the development of course, the lukewarm acceptance of Rienzi into Der Fliegende Holländer, which was not really a big hit for him, then into Tannhäuser, and then we become performers of leitmotifs. There is the drama and these leitmotifs that came such a stringent fact of Wagner's ring cycle.
Let's move on to something more rustic. The role of Dulcamara in Donizetti's L'Elisir d'Amore. This is a comic role, and you know, I would imagine that you must have had an incredible amount of fun. I mean, there's patter, there's manipulation, there's a shrewdness, there's a guile, there's everything there.
Yes, a quack doctor with his very bad-tasting, cheap Bordeaux. It's, of course, it's like this journey that one has in the profession, where you start purely by singing Mozart operas, which are, of course, a very solid repertoire within an opera house. And if you can corner the market in those kind of roles like Figaro, Guglielmo, Don Giovanni, Leporello, Masetto, you can have a rather good start to your career and start learning about the profession. But I've had Donizetti in my, I guess, armory from a very early age in this career. Like some people think that singing Donizetti towards the end of your career is something that might be evident, but I sang it many times and always had fun. But don't take it lightly, because that first entrance aria is one of the most tricky things that anyone can sing on the stage, both musically, both technically, and to get it right in the head also is to portray that character from the beginning is something incredible.
Let's see a clip from the 2013 production of Laurent Pelly. Bryn singing Udite, udite, o rustici.
Comprate il mio specifico, per poco ve lo do, per poco ve lo do, per poco ve lo do. Da bravi giovinotti, da brave pedovette, comprate il mio specifico, per poco io ve lo do. I nuovi paralitici, spedisce l'apopletici, l'astatici, gli sfinici, l'isterici, i diabetici, guarriscetti impalliditi, e scrofole lapiditi, e fino il mal di fegato, in moda di bel po'. Mirabile per civici, mirabile per fegato, guarrisce i paralitici, spedisce gli apopletici, comprate il mio specifico, voi vedove donzelle, voi giovani galanti, per poco ve lo do. Avanti, avanti, pedove, avanti, avanti, bamboli, comprate il mio specifico, poco ve lo do, sì sì, per poco ve lo do, sì sì, per poco ve lo do, sì sì, per poco ve lo do.
Bryn, in 2015, you sang at the Opera House The Flying Dutchman. Probably, if you had to define what a bass baritone is, it's someone who sings this piece in particular. It is one of the staples of that dramatic baritone repertoire. This is a role that also starts with an iconic aria, Die Frist ist Tell us about the demands. He's a very, very unusual character. There's a supernatural quality in the portrayal, in Wagner's portrayal of this character. How did that yeah, how did that come about in your career to want to sing this role, and what effects it has had on your vocal development? I'm really curious about that.
I can stay at the high tessitura for a little bit, but not for too long. So, and the same with the lower register. One day I could have magnificent Oasis und Osiris, but then the next day I couldn't sing it. So then it makes you stay with what you were listening to, like these singers, Simon Estes, George London. It was like a cello voice. Listen to him singing the third act of Valkyra, or his Boris Godunov monologue, or even James Morris, who has sung the Dutchman. I asked James once when I was singing Donna to his Wotan, which of the Wagners are you really afraid of? And he said, Der Fliegende Holländer, because of that monologue, Tony, that you mentioned, Die Frist ist It's about 12 minutes. But it's one that can be very dangerous. I remember with the production at the Royal Opera House, I asked them, I pleaded, please, can you give me a ship and no rake? And I think they misheard me, because they gave me one beautiful rake and not one ship on the stage at all. And I still to this day haven't had a ship.
The rake is the incline on the stage. It's very effective for the audience members, for the spectators out in the house, but it plays havoc on one's back, doesn't it?
Exactly. So the Flying Dutchman, yes, an incredible opera to be a part of, because of the dark, mysterious, mystic character that is spat onto the seashore every 7 years to try and find something of redemption.
Let's hear Die Frist ist from the 2015 production, Tim Albury's production.
Doch zugrunde gehen. Es gelichtet, jüngste Nacht. Und wann brichst du an in mein Nacht? Wann tönt der Vernichtungsschlag? Mit dem die Welt zusammenkracht.
We were able to convince you to do your first Boris Godunov in 2016. Now, again, another iconic role, a role that is almost, I would say, universally accepted as one of the great bass roles, even though I believe in the score it's written baritone, even if not bass baritone. Talk to us about that, because that role is also associated with so many of the greats, from Chaliapin to Boris Christoph. And what drew you to this character?
Exactly. I think you're so right, Tony. I would fight anybody tooth and nail who says Boris is a bass role. Not in the version that we did, undoubtedly, and dramatically. It's such a stunning journey to portray something like this on the stage. And as we've talked through this interview, it's about opera and drama. And when you have a director like Richard Jones, he tends to really concentrate on his singers being good in rehearsals and concentrated. There's absolutely, do you remember during Gianni Schicchi, Richard Jones would always give this little bottle of water that he painted gold to whoever at the end of the week he thought had been the most concentrated singer. I thought that was such a clever game to play, because we all wanted to win this golden bottle.
Bryn, did you ever win it? Tell me the truth.
No, I didn't. Marie McLaughlin was always right, because she was so concentrated in rehearsals, and Joan Rogers, if I remember. No, I never won the bottle, but in Boris Godunov, I thought we were all on a journey, Tony. You were doing it for the first time. Richard was having lines spoken to him all through the rehearsal process of a translation. And here we are, and a year of studying Boris, it has to be, because in our vagabond lives, I had to find Russian coaches in 6 different cities. I was in Monte Carlo, I was in New York, I was in Atlanta, I was all over the place, I was in Paris. And I had 6 different coaches that were saying different things about the Russian language, which drove me absolutely up the wall. But to turn up at the first rehearsal and go through Boris with your coach, the Royal Opera House's coach, and that they were happy, was a feather in one's cap, and you give yourself a tap on the back.
The way, I'll never forget the experience of Boris, because the way you cottoned on to several elements, the political element, the guilt of the character, and on the one hand, ambition, how you realized the goals of that ambition, your relationship to your children. This was just amazing and heartbreaking, and the way you observed the other singers was really something amazing. We have some rehearsal footage to show you. I think it was a musical workshop, and you can tell from this already, the scope and the depth of Bryn's performance.
It's very difficult for a North Walian not to do a hard L, because our language is all hard L's, as you find, it's all back. But to get this E, like the Y in Italian, to get that front L.
Чтоб ни одна душа не пришла за эту клан, чтоб зая се примешались против нам, чтоб вора не прилетели с Кракова. Ступай!
Или нет? Постой, Шуйский. So you see already, there's a craziness in the go, leave, come back. Или нет?
How did you learn that?
That is months worth of work.
Yeah. In 2019, Bryn, you unexpectedly focused your attention on the role of Don Pasquale, another comic role, an elderly gentleman this time, being taken for an incredible roller coaster of a ride by Norina and the people around her. I always have sympathy with Don Pasquale, because I think at heart he's a lovely, lovely guy. But when she slaps him in the middle of that duet, oh God, I melt. It's an opera that I've never conducted before, but always wanted to, and it's so sharp and so incredibly precise in putting across the expressions, the emotions, and the detail of all the characters' thoughts. Tell us about this role.
You can put Don Pasquale in the same world as Falstaff, I think. And of course, Verdi was venturing into a new ground, where that score also has such wit and that insight into the human nature. So Don Pasquale was not really venturing out of a certain realm of roles that I'm portraying. So even you can set Dulcamara into that same cart.
Well, said from one of the great Falstaffs that I can remember, and having had the pleasure of conducting you in the role of Falstaff, now I understand where Don Pasquale and Dulcamara come from. Let's listen to and look at a clip from Don Pasquale, Un fuoco insolito.
Un fuoco insolito mi sento addosso, o me resistere ed io non posso. Dell'età vecchia scorda in malanni, mi sento giovine come a 20 anni. De cara affrettati, vieni sposina, ecco di bamboli mezza dozzina. Già vedo nascere, già vedo crescere, a me d'intorno vedo scherzare. Vedo già nascere, vedo già crescere, a me d'intorno vedo scherzare.
Bryn, thank you so much for talking to us and being so frank about your career and yourself and your voice.
Thank you.
It really means a lot to me that you took the time out for us today. Thank you so much.
So I can just put a germ into your mind in lockdown. At the moment, I'm looking at Il Tabarro. I'm looking at Berlioz' Faust again, The Damnation, that maybe we should really do at Covent Garden.
I've been trying to talk you into doing Tabarro for years.
Unfortunately, I couldn't do the Bartok with the Welsh National Opera, so maybe that's something in the...
Oh, Bluebeard. Wow, okay. Are you hitting on me for work, Bryn?
Yes, please. I don't know when my next check is going to be for what I do. I need to warble to earn a living, as all these wonderful young singers are most probably feeling at this present time. It's a disaster for our world, and who knows when we can go into an opera house the next time. We have to totally rethink what the new norm is in our profession, and hopefully somebody's there to help these young singers.
Thank you for saying that, Bryn. Thank you.